Jayden Daniels, Malik Nabers, Brian Thomas Jr. all smashed at their pro day. And we've got a lot to discuss. We also have elbow rumors flying around Twitter, aka X right now. Everyone and their mother is talking about Jayden Daniels' elbow. And I'm gonna clear everything up for you because there's a lot of misinformation. You come to me for the medical stuff for a reason. Your boys always here to break down the medical, the fantasy football show, the Justin Herbert, Jayden Daniels, Malik Nabers, Pro Day, breaking news, NFL news show begins right now. File on in.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
From the FantasyFootballShow.com news desk, here is your breaking news.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got quite a show for you today. And as we do every single Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., we break the news, we break it all down, and we take phone calls, and we do it like no other. We've got a lot of news. This pro day for LSU was absolutely phenomenal. And Daniels is him. Daniels is him. You got elite wide receivers in these two gentlemen right here. Jayden Daniels walks out of this pro day as the clear number 2 overall player. In fact, there's not even a thought about this guy going 1, though, because he doesn't even have a meeting scheduled with the Chicago Bears. So that is good news. We don't want Jayden Daniels' talent going to waste in Chicago. But Jayden Daniels walks out as the clear number 2 quarterback right now. Now, pro days are always going to one-up the other person that already went. That's the way pro days are. Everybody looks good at their pro day. Jayden Daniels went out and absolutely had a fantastic day. He had a couple overthrows and misconnections, but just very few. Everybody you talk to that knows anything about the situation or was close to the situation or watched the entire thing, and especially people that talk to people that are close to, you know, the Washington Commander decision makers, everyone's making assumptions. Just like we said, you can't assume what other GMs say about another team to be true, but everybody's saying the Commanders looking like they're going to probably lean toward Jayden Daniels. Again, take that with a grain of salt, like any other news report that says that they don't. It goes both ways. But we're sitting here looking at two monsters on screen right here. And this man right here, Malik Nabers, probably separated himself from Odunze by a little bit, but I think it's less than people think because this man is still ready to impress everybody. And the fact that everybody keeps talking about how he solidified himself as the 3, he's so close to Nabers. And Nabers will get drafted above him almost certainly after running a 4.35, looking phenomenal. He smashed it. Nabers smashed his pro day. This is everything that Nabers needed to do in order to come out strong and solidify himself as the number 2. In some people's mind, Nabers will be the number 1. In some people's mind, Odunze will be the number 1. Very few people will feel that way. But Odunze's closer to Nabers and Harrison Jr. than he is anybody else below him. Let's just clear that up. If anybody wants to put Odunze 3rd, I'm okay with that. But don't start talking about Odunze ahead of somebody else. It is a clear top 3. It is Marvin Harrison Jr., it is Nabers, and it is Odunze. These 3 guys will all be top 12 wide receivers in the National Football League. And you can say the likelihood of that, Smitty's not, I don't care what the likelihood is. It is what it is. This class I'm judging independently, regardless of history. I don't need history to tell me how hard it is for 3 guys to come in and 2 of them be top 7 wide receivers and 1 of them be top 10 to 12. So you have a sum total of 3 wide receivers coming out. Plus, we've seen this happen before, but I know everyone's going to say, hey, who do you bump out? Who do you bump out? That's not my job today to decide who we're bumping out, but I will tell you that Nabers, I will tell you that Marvin Harrison Jr., and I will tell you, and I will still tell you that Odunze are by far, in a way, the top 3 wide receivers, and this guy had an amazing day, but just wait. This guy is going to be Remember, JJ was like the second and third ranked wide receiver, in some cases third or fourth ranked wide receiver in his draft class. This stuff happens all the time. Odunze is going to shock people, and this guy he has a bigger route tree. This guy's faster. This guy's explosive. This guy has a lot of different intangibles that this guy doesn't have. This guy has a lot of things that maybe this guy has, but we haven't seen because they haven't needed to use him in an extensive route tree like Odunze. Odunze is all over the field. Odunze can run every single route. Nabers probably will be able to. He's that athletic, but it's just there's a difference between the two. I love both of them. And I'm here to tell you, even coming off Nabers' amazing pro day, I still feel like they're neck and neck. I really do. Landing spot will determine everything. If anybody says, Smitty, oh, but Smitty, Nabers is so much. If Nabers goes to the Chargers and Dunze goes to the Giants with Danny Dimes, who do you think is going to be better? Nabers. If Nabers goes to the Giants with Danny Dimes and Odunze goes to the Chargers, who do you think is going to be better? Odunze. You can say what you want, but landing spot will determine everything. The thing is, what happened today probably solidifies Nabers as the second wide receiver off the board, and that probably means he's going to the Chargers, right? Not so quick. Not so fast. Jim Harbaugh said today he can't wait to build up the team's offensive line. And there are a lot of people talking about how, and I'm one of them, how Harbaugh's not predictable. Harbaugh's not as predictable as you and I think. Harbaugh's not just going to do exactly what you and I would do. I would draft Nabers or Odunze without a hesitation, without equivocation. I would stutter. You wouldn't hear me pause. I would take Nabers or Odunze without a hesitation, and I'd give Herbert his stud wide receiver who would flourish in an environment that, yes, will be very run heavy, but there's no one there. This wide receiver, whoever lands in LAC, will consume so many targets it won't matter. But the question is, does Harbaugh, is he going to do what you and I would do? Is he going to trade down? Is he going to draft the best offensive lineman in this draft? And man, I mean, this is a good situation if you're looking to go that direction. The problem is you've thinned out your wide receiver room. A room that, let's be frank, Harbaugh doesn't feel the same way about wide receivers as you and I do. You might think he needs to feel this way, but he doesn't necessarily guarantee you or I that he's going to get him a wide receiver. He traded away Keenan Allen for a garbage pick. I'm not saying Keenan Allen will stay healthy, but if anybody thinks this man's got only wide receiver on his mind right now, answer yourself the question. If you're saying, well, he got rid of everybody, that's a clear indication he's going to draft a wide receiver at the 5 pick. Is it, or is it an indication he doesn't really care about wide receivers? They're bodies to him. He's all about the run. He's all about the offensive line. He said today that he can't wait to build up the offensive line. He said, what position is unaffected by other positions unlike any other? And he said, offensive line. You got to start with the offensive line. I mean, Joe Alt is absolutely, he fits the bill for this kind of conversation. And he's very worthy of the pick. The question is, same thing if you date back to Jamar Chase going to the Bengals. I said, look, I know it's important to grab an offensive lineman. And everybody and their mother said that you don't draft Joe Burrow, or you don't draft Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow. You take the best offensive lineman in the draft. And I said, no, you don't. You draft Jamar Chase, you stretch the defense, you improve your offensive line by mere degree of separation. Jamar Chase improves the offensive line play because they have less pressure the moment Jamar Chase is on the field. And I don't care what anybody says about that. I had a NFL coach come on and rip me apart on that. And I didn't budge. And I was right. And he was wrong. Jamar Chase is the best thing that's ever happened to the Bengals since Joe Burrow. And they will continue to build off that. Yeah, Joe Burrow may have suffered injury. Someone's going to come in and say, but he did get injured. They've also absolutely floored everybody ever since Jamar Chase arrived. They've been a fantastic team. They've been a threat every single year. They've been Super Bowl contenders every single year. They've been dominating. So the same thing and dilemmas here. The only difference is this is not going to be an aerial assault. This is not going to be an absolute, gun show over in LAC. This is going to be a run-heavy system that focuses on blocking, running backs, and very, very calm, cool, collective quarterback play that doesn't necessarily need a flashy Nabers or a Dunze in the eyes and mind of Harbaugh. I'm a little worried that everybody thinks that Harbaugh is going to go get himself Nabers and a Dunze. The crazy part is what happens if this goes a different direction. Now, the team that trades up to number 5, if they trade it, might draft Nabers or Dunze and be very, very in the market for a receiver and it'd be okay. But if they take Joe Alt here, and then you've got Nabers going here, and maybe a Dunze goes 8 still, you can't rule that out. It's not like the Falcons have completely solved their wide receiver 2 spot. They brought in Mooney. It's a decent play. But I don't know where a Dunze falls. Indy's my hope. If somehow Harbaugh triggers a fall of one of the wide receivers, it'll most likely be a Dunze, not Nabers, because I would venture to say that 80% of the NFL teams and GMs and decision makers view Nabers coming off today's amazing pro day. They view him as the number 2 wide receiver. I can easily admit that. I'm very unbiased, very objective of what the reality is of the situation. Nabers has got a big lead in the majority of GM's eyes. I think a couple will see a Dunze better, and a Dunze still got some stuff to prove, right? Just like Jayden Daniels was looking at Caleb Williams and McCarthy's pro day, and everybody's so excited about McCarthy's now the number 2 quarterback. Remember, all the GMs yesterday were pulled. Who do you think the Washington Commanders draft? Is it going to be McCarthy, JD5? Oh, yeah, we think it's going to be McCarthy. And everybody started saying that the Washington Commanders are most likely to draft McCarthy now. What happened today? Jayden Daniels had a pro day. Now the same GMs and different GMs are talked to. Who do you think the Washington Commanders are drafting? JD5. It goes with the wind. Whatever way the wind's blowing, that's where the attention goes. So the question is, where do these wide receivers go? If Harbaugh throws a curveball at everybody and takes Alt, and that's what he wants, his offensive line over anything else, he said it. He could be throwing a wrench into the situation, trying to throw a curveball to everybody else, but he's in the 5 spot. He's in the driver's seat. The Cardinals are taking MHJ, and if they trade out, it's going to be a quarterback. Anybody that trades into the Cardinals number 4, it's most likely not to get MHJ. It's probably 80-90% likely that it's a quarterback. That's why the team's moving into 4. Chargers and Harbaugh have no reason to really bluff on Joe Alt. I believe that there's a strong possibility that we're all dumbfounded. And I've said this for over a couple months now. I don't think Harbaugh fails. I'm not saying that. I think the Chargers could absolutely still play good ball right away. Harbaugh could win at this level. He's done it before, but he's been away for a while. Playing college football, it's different, right? You get used to it. He's bringing the college game over more than he's going back to his old ways many, many years ago. It's a lot more likely that Harbaugh is going to return to his college instincts and style of build, mixing in different things that he thinks works better at the NFL level. He's definitely creative enough to do that adjustment type of thing. But he's not just going to go back to something we haven't seen. He's literally going to, I believe, create a Michigan-type football team. And remember, the NFL translates, or the college game translates to the NFL so well now. It's not like it's crazy to try and mirror what he's been doing over in Michigan, over here in the NFL. Defense, offensive line, run game, efficient quarterback. Herbert being a facilitator, not a game winner necessarily. And that's going to be disappointing, I believe, in a nutshell. Minus, Nabers or Dunze, if they go to LAC and become the lone wide receiver there to consume, a smaller number of targets in the grand scheme of the NFL when you compare offenses and line them all up. But because there's no one there, the full consumption of the majority of those targets in LAC will be elite wide receiver numbers. So I'm not worried about the landing spot for Nabers or Odunze. Everybody loves it. I think people are overvaluing it a tad. Marvin Harrison Jr. to Arizona is probably, I would say, 70% better than going to LAC, to a run-heavy, offensive line, run-heavy, grind it out, drain the clock, head coach. Defense. Spread out, balanced attack. You want Marvin Harrison playing in Arizona. You don't want him in LAC over Arizona. LAC's better than a plethora of teams on the board, but it doesn't mean you are wishing for LAC because what? Herbert's there? Harbaugh's there. Harbaugh's going to disappoint a lot of people in fantasy. He didn't bring in an elite running back. Does everybody not see what's happening? He trades Keenan Allen for a ham sandwich. And I'm not saying Keenan Allen stays healthy. I've gone on record saying I don't think he plays at 32 years old well all year. He might be good per start, but I still wouldn't have got rid of him for a ham sandwich. He traded away Keenan Allen on a hell of a cheap cost of return. And then you have the opportunity to go get Barkley, Henry, or Jacobs in what will likely be one of the best running attacks in the National Football League. And you decide not to address it. You go and get Gus Edwards, Gus Bus. I don't think he'll thrive in LAC. Why do I think they don't really believe he's the full-time workhorse? Because I think they run 2-3 running backs. This, in my opinion, will be a 2- and 3-headed monster. I think we're very, very likely to see Harbaugh just throw a curveball at us. So we'll see what happens and where these wide receivers fall. But it could get very interesting, these landing spots for these two gentlemen right here. But JD5 is absolutely him, and we've got to address the elbow concerns. There are a lot of people spreading, you could say, false information around Twitter about this guy's elbow. And let me just show you. So this tweet is out there, and you can see different images. And I pulled this one up because I want everybody to take a gander at the 4 different images. This one in the bottom left, that's not his elbow. Okay, that's either a very distorted photo from motion and trying to snap the photo, or AI even, or it's just one of those crazy angles like you're at the beach and there's a combination of different things going on. The reason all 4 of these are up here is to show you his elbow. This is his elbow. Top left is really what we're dealing with. It's a bursa sack. And there are people spreading rumors around that this guy has some sort of deformed elbow, and there are people actually that don't know ball. They don't know ball at all. Run away from their account. If they say, hey, this is happening, run away, unfollow, run away. Don't go near their content. They're spreading a bunch of fear propaganda to either lower his value, just make other teams feel bad about their potential quarterback. This man has a bursa sack. I've had one of these from sitting in my chair. I had my elbow like this for like a half a year one time. I had a bad habit of just sitting on one elbow like this, and I had a bursa sack on there. All it does is it's padding, it's swelling. It's your body protecting the bone and developing like a swelling. It's like a sack, and it protects the elbow. You get them if you bang your elbow really hard. I banged my elbow so hard playing basketball once. I had a bursa sack that was like this big. It was huge. It was the size of this. It was like this remote was on my elbow. That's what it looked like for weeks. And this is what he's dealing with, and everybody's just coming out of the woodwork. Look at his elbow. Look at this. Does that bottom left photo look real? This is what he's dealing with here. He went out and was marvelous in his pro day. There's nothing wrong with his elbow. People can spread all of the rumors they want. It doesn't matter. Tell everybody. Tell your friends. Tell everybody that he's garbage. Let's hope his fantasy football stock falls. Everything we've heard today is this man's the number 2 overall pick likely to the Washington Commanders. Something I've said from the beginning of the offseason. Something I've said well before the NFL Super Bowl occurred when I put this man on the Saturn Man list.
The Saturn Men.
One small step for man, one giant leap for Saturn.
This man is the number 1 best quarterback, my number 1 quarterback in this entire draft class. This is the man that's going to potentially be better than Lamar Jackson within 1 or 1.5 years. And when asked today, hey, and he was very articulate, very well spoken today, absolute leader in interviews, the kind of answers you want, not like Caleb Williams, who's just, it's like watching a circus act go on constantly with Caleb. He's got the Hollywood vibe. Everybody says, even his own prospective future teammates in Chicago have said, don't bring that Hollywood crap to the Chicago Bears. The NFL is going to eat that up. Okay, don't bring any of that crap. Multiple Bear players have said, don't bring the antics. Don't bring the antics. Don't bring the antics. And what does Caleb continue to do? Let him be him. Everybody says, Smitty, why you hate him so much? Why don't you let him be him? I honestly don't care what he does, how he does things, how he conveys himself. Like, of course you don't, because you're a Bears fan. You have no other choice. I love my Bears fans. I'm not trying to drive any fan base away from my channel. I am a non-judging, everybody, all-inclusive NFL news show and fantasy football show with no ties to any team. I'm in Arizona, a Cardinal fan, but I never let it impact my fantasy football content or this channel. Never. I'm critical of the Cardinals, maybe overly critical. If you want to say it impacts anything, maybe I'm more pessimistic and more judgmental of Kyler Murray and all of the antics that he brought to the table, because Kyler Murray was not a leader. But this man right here, he's 2,010 pounds. Good Lord, he added a lot of weight. He's 210 pounds. He says, thank you for the correction. I'm 210 pounds. They asked him, in his very articulate, very well-spoken, very leadership-geared interview, where this man looks like a leader, acts like a leader, commands a crowd around him like a leader, answers questions like a leader, leads the men. This guy says, my most common question, Mr. Interviewer, is how much do you weigh? Because the guy said, what's the thing that you constantly get asked that you feel like you got to explain the most? How much do I weigh? And he goes, and I weigh 210 pounds. And you can call him a liar if you want. You could say, why doesn't he weigh in? Why doesn't he measure in? He doesn't feel the need to be a victim to anyone's ridicule. He doesn't feel the need to have to curb his body to be a certain weight for everybody's acceptance. Maybe he's playing at 208. Maybe he plays at 207 sometimes. Maybe he is 212. Maybe he is 210. If he says he's 210 and everybody that interviewed him today said he's bigger than anybody thought, this is no Bryce Young. He's 210 pounds. He's 6'4". He's 6'4", and he says he's 210 pounds. You can say you don't believe him. You can say whatever you want. But this is a man right here that is going to lead the Commanders, or whatever team ends up taking him, into the promised land. This is a man that could run for well over 1,000 yards in any given season. This is a guy that could throw absolute missiles with touch that no other quarterback has in this draft class. This is a guy that led FBS in yards per throw with 11 point, I had it written down over here. 11.7 yards per pass. Best in FBS history. Best in FBS history. 11.7 yards per pass. Oh, he can only run. He's a gadget quarterback. Why does he lead FBS history in yards per pass? Why is this man too small when he tells you he's 210? He's 6'4", and you act like he's a small, tiny man. He also has no meeting set up with the Chicago Bears, which makes me very happy. Makes me happy as can be. And I, Smitty, approve that message that he's not even meeting with the Chicago Bears as of right now.
You've just been Smitty approved.
It's quite amazing to me that anybody even has a lick of hate or doubt around Jayden Daniels. If you like somebody better, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is a quarterback that is essentially a running back. This is a quarterback that ran for 1,134 yards and 10 touchdowns in 2023 regular season football. He had 1134 and 10 touchdowns. He had 40 passing touchdowns and only 4 INTs. Who's running their mouth now? 38-12 passing, 40 passing touchdowns, 4 INTs, 10 rushing touchdowns, a combined 50 touchdowns on the ground, and a total of well over 900. Did he have 4,000? This guy had nearly 5,000 yards total. Right around 5,000 yards total. And someone's gonna run their mouth about this guy being what? What could you possibly say about Jayden Daniels? He's not accurate? Yes, he is. He doesn't throw well. Why does he have FBS history record yards per throw, 11.7? Why does he have that? How do he score 50 total touchdowns? How does he have 4 INTs when he scrambles so much, making impromptu decisions? On the run, off schedule, sometimes on schedule, other times. How do you have 4 TDs if you're such an off schedule quarterback? This guy is going to absolutely explode. He is him. He is going to be an absolute monster. I believe Adam Peters is the guy to understand what time it is. And this elbow rumors I've already addressed, but I'll sum it up and tell you. I don't know where this photo on the bottom left came from. I don't know if somebody tried to AI this thing, but the top left is what he's dealing with. Bottom right shows it pretty much in normal form. Bursa sack, does he often develop it? It's possible this is a reoccurring bursa sack that happens, but it's a protective measure to protect the elbow bone. It's a nuisance. It's not a hampering situation. These people running this stuff out there want to devalue him, and that's fine. I hope you do. I hope you make him so cheap in fantasy because of the garbage you're funneling out there. And this piece of news here, Adam Pierce said he wants a damn runner at quarterback. Wouldn't be surprised if for any reason Adam Peters doesn't want Jayden Daniels, which I can't imagine or fathom, to be honest with you, because Adam Peters knows freaking football. And given that I believe this is the top quarterback by far, the top quarterback in this draft class by far, I think Adam Peters knows that. He's that good and he won't pass on him. But if he did, if Adam Peters got hit on the head, didn't know where he was on draft day, and they panic and they say trade the pick, I hope the Raiders do get him. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Herbert, we addressed that. We addressed the wide receivers. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable that we're even talking about some of this stuff, and it's unbelievable that people don't see the light on this one. It's unbelievable that Caleb's demeanor and how he doesn't carry himself as a leader is still number 1 on the Bears board. If anybody thinks that Fields wasn't failed, ask yourself this question. What's more likely, that the same team that is looking at Caleb Williams as the number 1 quarterback after they just went and endured a bust situation in their eyes, what's more likely, that Fields was failed or Fields failed the Bears? What's more likely? What's more likely? Everybody was kind of influenced into thinking Fields is a backup. You talk to anybody right now, they say Fields wasn't even good enough to get a starting job. They let other GMs and bad decision makers across the entire National Football League. You heard me. Smitty, you think you know more than other... Where's my megaphone? Smitty, you think you know more than other GMs and decision makers in the NFL? Yes, I wouldn't be doing what I do if I didn't have a little bit of confidence that I actually do feel like I know more than a majority of the decision makers in the National Football League. You don't like that. I don't know why you're even watching me. You know that's how I feel. You know that's how I carry this show. And you could call it arrogant. You could call it whatever you want. I've done this for 20 plus years. I'd take a GM job in a heartbeat. And I'm at least honest. And I tell you, I'd burn the team to the ground in a year and a half or create 1 or 2 Super Bowls in a 3-4 year period. I know that about myself. I am a little bold averse. I'm a little risk averse. I kind of like to go and fly close to the sun. But if you think I think that these GMs even 80% of them know what's better for their teams than we do, or I do, or our show collectively does, you're out of your mind, or you're brand new to the channel, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel, Bob. I do open my door to you, and we want you here. I'm not, this is my resting face. I'm not mad at anybody. If you're new, this is how I talk. This is my resting face right here. I'm in a great mood tonight. I'm merely telling you, Justin Fields, everyone's influenced by what GMs are saying. He's not good enough to start. Oh, okay, well, they must be right. When literally about a month or two ago, guess what we were all saying in here? Oh my God, if he goes to Atlanta, Fields to the moon, Atlanta Falcons to the moon. I'd rather have Fields in Atlanta than Cousins, really, right? Fields was going to Atlanta. The Vegas odds had Fields going to Atlanta more than any other situation. Hit that thumb up button on the way in the door. Fields to Atlanta was the by far the lead dog in Vegas, in the Vegas odds. When Kirk Cousins grabbed this spot and took it away from Fields' kung fu grip, unfortunately, it was the most cemented in spot, and it created a cascading effect of doubt and neglect toward the idea and concept of bringing Fields in as a starter. And now we're left with the aftermath. One single signing changed the trajectory of where Fields was going to go next. And now everybody just blindly accepts that Fields is not a good enough quarterback because other GMs feel that way. The same GMs that said no to Lamar Jackson for 2 first-round picks. The same GMs that fought desperately to bring in Deshaun Watson, but didn't want Lamar Jackson. The same GMs that didn't trade for Justin Fields for even a 4th-round unconditional pick, which would have easily overruled the let's take care of Fields and Poles is going to do right by him. He would have said, screw that, give me the 4th rounder. Sorry, Fields. 30 teams crapped the bed hardcore by not giving up at least a 4th or 3rd round pick, unconditional, force the Chicago Bears to make that move regardless of what Fields wants, and they would have done it. 30 teams crapped the bed, and you're going to come in here and tell me I don't know more than 30 other teams? Well, I'm sorry. I don't feel that way. I feel like 30 teams shiatted the bed hardcore. Completely. So, I don't agree with anybody when they say, oh, Smitty, you think the majority of people are wrong here? Or, hey, Smitty, don't you think the Chicago Bears know more than you about who their quarterback should be? I don't. I think the Chicago Bears are very much in the dark right now. They don't even have a meeting set up with Jayden Daniels. He has meetings set up with every other team around the top 5 overall. The Bears don't have a single meeting set up with JD5. They want Caleb. The rest of the NFL, like I predicted, is going to catch up and want JD5 number 1 overall on their board. I was watching NFL Live and SportsCenter just came on, and 2-3 analysts in a row even said, who's your number 1 person on the board right now? Probably JD5 coming off today. JD5. Caleb Williams, JD5. It's coming. People are catching up. JD5 is the number 1 quarterback. But the Chicago Bears, thank God, because they'll probably ruin whoever lands in that spot. Thank God the Chicago Bears are, for whatever reason, marching to the beat of their own drum. As they did with Fields, as they're going to do, ruin Fields, they're going to do with Caleb. Bringing in Shane Waldron instead of Cliff Kingsbury. Having just a preliminary, just kind of checking things out, discovery interview with Kingsbury instead of saying, Kingsbury, you tell me what you need. We need you. We'll pay you whatever you want. What title do you want? Do you want multiple titles? How do we get you in a head coaching job easiest coming off this situation? Or maybe you want to stay with your boy anyway. Kingsbury coached Caleb Williams at USC this past season. And the Bears don't make every effort known to man to bring Kingsbury in. And some might say, well, Kingsbury maybe didn't want to go there. He would go wherever Caleb was. Caleb is his boy. They're like family. The Caleb Williams family and Kingsbury's family are like this. Thank God Kingsbury doesn't have to be paired with this man because I want him to take JD5 to the promised land. The phone lines are open.
Call into the show. Call into the show.
Dial in. I love that it's coming full circle. I love that we're hearing all kinds of JD5 conversation now. Oh, now, yeah, he looks like he's the number 1 overall player. He definitely looks fantastic. Yeah, for sure. When everybody and their mother was like, oh, this guy doesn't necessarily even have the number 2 quarterback spot locked down. But Daniels is climbing fast. You're going to see everybody and their mother but the Chicago Bears. Maybe the Chicago Bears mothers will feel this way. Maybe, I don't know. I was going to say something. I'll be nice. Dial in. JD5 being talked about, being number 1 on ESPN radio. Definitely hearing that on ESPN right now. They were talking about it. He was ranked by the 2 people just breaking down the pro day by both of the individuals. I think it was Clark and who else was it? They both had JD5 as the number 1 overall pick. Chicago doesn't even have a meeting with them. Rain says, should I trade the 1.1 in a Dynasty Super Flex for the 3 and 8? No, absolutely not.
You've just been Smitty disapproved.
You haven't been disapproved, but I disapproved that trade. I want full control. I don't want anybody, hey, here's an 8, and then you take leftovers. I want control of the number 1 overall player. Now, I will say that if you can get Nabers, because you know it's going to go quarterback Marvin, or if you knew for a fact you were getting MHJ, then I would do it. I want to take MHJ anyway. And I know in Superflex, people go quarterback. I don't force it. And if you don't have any quarterbacks, then that's a whole other conversation you probably got to call in for. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is my number 1 overall in Superflex. I don't care. Like, I don't build like that. I don't build like to where I'm forcing quarterback because I screwed up my quarterback. Like, I know other people have dilemmas that maybe your quarterback got injured. Maybe you banked on the wrong guy. Maybe you had good quarterbacks. It's a long league and your quarterbacks are since getting older and whatever. Maybe you had Tom Brady for a decade and now you're trying to recover from that. I get it. Everybody's situation is different, but I personally, on the surface level, you'll never see me just put out rankings going, that is super flex. I'm putting these quarterbacks first. Marvin Harrison Jr. is number 1. Nabers is probably my number 2. Dunze and JD5 probably ranking in at 3, depending on the situation. JD5 at 2 could be my pick if I was in dire straits at QB, but I'll be honest, I don't have any super flexes where I really am in that situation because you can't win that way. You need quarterbacks. You need at least one Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. And then if it's super flex, you don't even have to go second quarterback. It's advantageous to do it. Very few owners are going to win super flex drafts without having a second good quarterback. But you can still do it. You can still do it. Marvin Harrison Jr. over not landing the quarterback. You're just taking the third or second best quarterback rookie, and you're like, hopefully it works out. And they play good. Not elite, but they play good. Marvin Harrison Jr. could outperform that as your flex. What are we talking about? Nabers is way better than Dunze. That's your opinion. That's your opinion. And I respect it, but I disagree with you. I think they're both absolutely phenomenal, and their situations will determine who's better. Dunze's getting so undervalued. He runs a better route tree. He's a more physical in terms of like contested catches. Not that Nabers isn't still elite. Like, understand what I'm saying. They're both amazing. My putting Dunze next to Nabers as like 2A and 2A. Like, it is Marvin Harrison Jr., mini tier break, and then it's Nabers and Dunze at 2A and 2A. But this whole notion that Odunze is not better than Nabers at some things and Nabers is better than Odunze at some things is a farce. And I know he had a great pro day today, and that's why I'm calling him 2A. He's 2A. Him and Odunze are neck and neck. The landing spot will decide. Odunze's got so many intangibles that you could say are the best in the entire draft class of wide receivers in some aspects of his game. His conversion rate across the board, every route, every position. Deep routes, under routes. This guy's number one in the combined sum total of conversion rate across every single route and position. And he's lined up everywhere. His route tree's off the hook. He can do anything. Odunze is so set up to survive and succeed. And whoever goes to the best situation out of Odunze or Nabers will be the better receiver, at least initially, and they can still be both. And understand what I'm saying, because I feel like Keyboard Clifford is going to hear I don't like Odunze, and when I'm putting Odunze and Marvin Harrison Jr., Odunze, and Nabers all on the Moon Men list together, and someone's going to go, oh, now you like Nabers because Caleb doesn't listen. Keyboard Clifford doesn't listen. I love Nabers. I love Odunze. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. These three wide receivers are absolutely all going to be inside the top 10 to 12, two of which will be inside the top 7, one of which will be inside the top 1 to 5. Nabers could be number 8 overall. Odunze could be number 7 or 8 overall. They're both that good. Marvin Harrison Jr. could be number 1. Nabers could be 4. Marvin Harrison Jr. could be 5 in 2024 if the landing spots are horrible. If the Cardinals trade out, something crazy happens. Who knows? Situation will determine everything. JD5 being number 1 was heard here first on this channel. That's right. That's right, Joe. You have it correct. Joe is speaking absolute fact right now. Chicago is building up hype for Williams and will trade down to the number 2 and take JD plus. No, they won't, because I don't know if you heard what I just said, though, Aldi. I don't think, no offense, but I don't think you're dialed in. The Bears don't even have a meeting with him. Do you think they're really going to draft him and not even set up a meeting? I don't think so, bro. Now, maybe they change their mind. Maybe they watch today and they go, let's change gears. It is possible. But as of this moment, this is not the move. They would probably go McCarthy before they would go JD5. I don't know why. I don't care. I don't ask questions. I just know the Bears aren't looking at JD5 like that, bro. But I appreciate you, Aldi. Hod says, easy to fall in love with rushing QBs, but I think the NFL teams are not on the same page as fantasy. Well, Prime, I think you're clearly, no offense, clearly wrong in this, because he's the consensus number 2 right now across any analyst show, any sort of scouting, territory or environment. And like I said, take it with a grain of salt with GMs, but GMs have switched their McCarthy vote over to JD5. So JD5 is not a running quarterback, Prime. He's an elite passer. Like, I don't understand. Like, did you watch Prime? I love you, but did you watch any of the show? Like, this guy's a 4,000-yard passer, FBS history record breaking 11.7 yards per pass, and you're calling him a running quarterback because he also runs well. Like, you're putting JD5 in a box like he's a runner when he threw for 40 touchdowns, Prime. JD5 didn't throw for 27 touchdowns and ran for 12. He ran for 10. He ran for almost 1,200 yards, and he's being penalized for running for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. Prime, you're penalizing him because he ran for 10 tutties and 1,200 yards. You're penalizing him. You're overlooking the 40 passing touchdowns and 4,000 yards, Prime. I don't get it. Super chat coming in strong by World Nabers is Pickens Jr. Odunze has JJ potential. I love both the comparisons. I will give Nabers a bit more bump than Pickens, and I'll say Nabers feels a lot like, God, who is the best receiver to compare Nabers to? I'd almost say Nabers right now reminds me a lot of like Devontae Adams meets. I don't want to say Amari Cooper because that sounds like a bad. Like, you guys know how much I always kind of undervalue Amari Cooper, so I don't want you to think. But like the way he runs his routes, but like an amazing Amari Cooper. So like Amari Cooper meets. What wide receiver comes to mind? Let me go to thefantasyfootballshow.com rankings, where you guys can all get your year-round fantasy football rankings, bowl predictions, trade calculators, articles. And let me take a gander at my wide receiver rankings real quick. And let me just say, I would say like a combination of Jamar Chase meets A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown meets Jamar Chase meets yeah, that meets Adams. I'd say that's a very good compliment to Nabers. Adams, Jamar Chase, and who did I say? A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown. That's my comparison. That's a very good wide receiver. That's a fantastic comparison. A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams. The reason I'm giving you 3 is because he doesn't play like any one of those guys solely. And then I would say Odunze plays like Jamar Chase. I think he is the Jamar Chase upside. JJ too. Like, that's a good comparison. But you see my point? Those are all elite. Those are all top 1 to 5 wide receivers. Is there a world where Nabers is the number 1 fantasy football wide receiver 2 or 3 years from now? Yes. That's why it makes me almost upset when someone thinks I don't like Nabers. The thing that somebody hears is he likes Odunze better as a prospect, yes. But at the NFL level, where they go, how they mature, how they develop, Adams matured so much at the NFL level under the tutelage of Aaron Rodgers. So you put Odunze in an amazing situation where he can get groomed and cultivated. He could become the number 1 wide receiver in the National Football League. You put Nabers in a situation where he can be groomed and cultivated, he could become the number 1 wide receiver in the National Football League. Marvin Harrison Jr., same thing, but he even gets a little bit of a head start, which makes him more attractive as a prospect. And he's also got the almost slam dunk landing spot in Arizona or LAC, or if another team trades up for him, they really need a wide receiver bad. Marvin Harrison Jr. also has that built into the equation. He's probably the one guy out of the 3 that's guaranteed, most likely, as guaranteed as you can get, of being in the best spot of all of them, which will help him keep and maintain the number 1 overall wide receiver rookie ranking spot developmentally and for the 2024 season. You're probably right, Smitty, but I know Pace is trying to accumulate more draft picks for the next draft because they only have 4 picks this year. I get you, but I don't think I don't think you're crazy that they trade down. It's probably unlikely at this point. Caleb's very much their guy, but Aldi, if something happened, like let's say Caleb made news doing something crazy, or they started to get some doubts about him, like maybe in an interview, maybe with the next meeting they have with him. Then they could trade down because they don't want to take JD5. They have no meeting set up with JD5. Could it be a smokescreen to take him? I mean, we've seen teams draft a player they didn't set up an interview with before. It has happened, but it would be almost a debacle. It'd almost be, especially if it didn't work out for some reason, that would be the most disastrous way to approach the number 1 overall pick. People have done that at 3 or 4 or 5 to throw teams off. But to not meet with Jayden Daniels and then draft him number 1 or draft him number 2, trade down and then take him, would be a laughing stock move just on its face. Like, why would you do that? Like, you have the number 1 overall pick. Like, Washington wants, Kingsbury wants Caleb anyway. they'd probably take him, unfortunately. So I just don't see it at all. Let's see here. Odell Beckham Jr. Yeah. Let me pull up the news, because I know some news is flying in, and I want to read all that. Former Washington receiver Rome Odunze will not work out at the school's pro day on Thursday. Odunze plans to stand on his performance at the NFL Combine in February. Woo! Where he performs at wide receiver, or where he performed all his wide receiver drills and ran a 4.5 40. That'll be interesting in what that does. He's obviously getting advice from his camp. That's breaking news right now. Rome Odunze is not going to work out at his pro day. He's standing on business from the Combine. Now, while a lot of people are going to come at him negatively, and I don't blame them. Like, I'm not going to defend not doing another workout. However, he did show up to the Combine. And he did show out, and he looked amazing. And maybe he feels like if the ambiguity of him not running a slower time, maybe he got banged up or something. Maybe it's nothing crazy, but maybe he got banged up, and he's afraid that if he goes out there with a little hamstring tightness or something, that he can end up changing the game for himself. I don't know. But that's an interesting news report that just broke right now. Damn, I almost want to end the live stream and come live on that. That's big news. Former Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze will not work out at the school's pro day on Thursday. I don't think it affects him too much. I think he doesn't climb above Nabers with this news, but where could he go? Wow, how is this going to go? This is going to be crazy. This is going to be absolutely insane. This draft is going to be so exciting. It's going to be so exciting. This right here is going to determine, kind of like Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta threw everything off for Fields. If the Chargers don't take Nabers here, I don't know where they go. Nabers goes to the Giants and Odunze falls to Atlanta or Indy. I mean, God, the possibilities are endless. Nobody wants Nabers in New York. Not with Danny Dimes. Maybe long-term it could be actually a benefit, but no one wants that. Everybody wants a benefit now and for the future. Everybody wants a great landing spot for Nabers, right? So if the Chargers take, let's say they don't trade out. Let's say they take Joe Alt, which I would say there's a 50% chance they do at this point. Based on today's news and Harbaugh talking about the offensive line being his, most desired thing to address right away, makes me feel like Joe Alt's probably going to the Chargers at 5, at least 50%. So Chargers take Alt, Giants take Nabers, or they go quarterback. If they go quarterback, where's Nabers go then? Atlanta? Tennessee? Wow, I mean, they got Ridley and Hopkins. Would they do that? They could. Atlanta, Nabers in Atlanta. I mean, I don't think they'd pass on Nabers there. And then Odunze, where's Odunze go? It'll be crazy. It'll be absolutely insane. I can't wait. I'll be live. Clearly, I'll be live during the NFL draft. You guys know that about me. We'll be live the entirety of the first round. We'll probably be live the entirety of day 2. But we'll be live, and it'll be. I think this is going to get a little nuts right here. I think 5 is so unpredictable right now. It's going to be totally unpredictable. What's up, Travis? You're live.
Hey, I think the Chargers do go Alt at 5, because if they don't go Alt, Tennessee's going Alt. I can almost guarantee it. Unless they like a guy like Fashanu or something better, then they could trade out. But I just have a feeling, like you said, the way Harbaugh builds things, he'll feel like he can get a wide receiver elsewhere. He's
not looking at it like we are. As much as everybody wants Nabers to be the Charger pick, it's not guaranteed. I'm not saying it's out of the question. I'm just saying it's not 100%. Everybody thinks it's 100% because they want it. They want it so bad that they're overlooking Harbaugh's. to be honest with you, I like Harbaugh a lot. I do. But the last couple of interviews, he's kind of been like, I don't know, what's the best way to word it? He's kind of been like, I don't know, mumbling like about a lot of different things. And he's kind of been like all over the place. He's like, oh,
He's been out of the pro game for a long time.
You what?
He's been out of the pro game a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say, oh, he had success before, but like you're out of it for a while. You come in, you know, coaching and training and talking to NFL players is different than college players. But he's kind of been, I don't know, he's kind of been like, I don't want to say not making sense, but he's been very, very strange in his interviews, last couple of interviews, in my opinion. I've been kind of walking away going, that's the guy? You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He just doesn't seem very, like, he's been all over the place, like a ping pong ball, bouncing back and forth. And again, I know this is what Mackay, is that how you say his name? This is what this is, no offense, Mackay, this is from somebody that needs Nabers to go to the Chargers. You need it. You don't know, like, Nabers going to the Chargers, they need weapons. Look, you're trying to will this to happen. I'm telling you that there's no guarantee on this, bro. I'm not saying you're going to be wrong. 50-50 at this point. I would say 50% chance at best Nabers is going to the Chargers. That's a big percentage, Mackay. That's a big percentage. That's a good chance, but that's not 100. It's not a lock. It's not when Harbaugh's out there talking constantly about offensive line and Joe Alt is already in the conversation, and everybody, this is the same debate as Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, or do you go Penei Sewell? Sewell or Chase? Sewell's generational. So is Joe Alt. Joe Alt is absolutely generational.
Yep. A monster.
Yeah. So.
And he could very easily. I'm not saying this is what I would do, but maybe he likes what he's seen from Quentin Johnston. Whether he can be a one or not, that's for him to determine. I don't think he can, but maybe he's okay with Johnston and Palmer, and then he could either trade back in, or he could go in the second and third rounds and get an Xavier Worthy and a Pearsall and be happy with them too.
Yeah,
you know?
I think Joe Alt
there's a lot of different ways to do it.
Yeah, a Joe Alt and a Leggett would please Harbaugh more than not getting his offensive lineman and having Nabers. That's the way I feel about Harbaugh. So if that happens, if let's say they take Joe Alt, Nabers goes to the Giants, or do they stick to their guns and go quarterback, or not stick to their guns? Do they realize the reality of the situation and not stick to their guns, I guess you could say? Because like Danny Dimes would be like, I'm going to double down. Like, do they take their quarterback, or do they say, like, let's say MHJ goes 4, Joe Alt goes 5, McCarthy's or May is available. I think the Giants go McCarthy or May, but if that happens, then where the hell does Nabers go? Does Tennessee go, I don't care that we've got Ridley. I don't care that we've got Hopkins. He's older. We've got Levis. We need to take advantage of Nabers, do it live. Or do they pass, and does Atlanta get him? Atlanta wouldn't pass.
I don't think Atlanta takes another wide receiver. Do you?
I don't think they pass on Nabers, or they trade down or something. I mean, Mooney and Rondell are okay, but they're not like names you go, oh yeah, we're good. You'd be like, well.
I guess I'm trying to think of it, this is an impossible task, but trying to think of it like an NFL GM thinks of it, looking at the line and defense and, okay, what do we need? Well, we got Mooney and we got Rondale, so we're set there now, which I don't agree, but
I don't know, bro.
I think Chicago would take a receiver if they fell.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. What if Chicago? Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. I mean, do they? Yeah. Again, the value's there for sure. But do they go Odunze?
The same idea as Tennessee.
Yeah, it's and in that though, you could easily see each of these individual situations kind of just passing. Like, hey, you know, we want the quarterback. Boom. Okay, Nabers falls one slot, and then Tennessee's like, you know, we see the value, but we in particular can't go that route. We're gonna go boom. Then Atlanta's like, same thing. And all of a sudden, you just see the wide receivers fall. I can't imagine it, but, these things happen.
What I think might happen? I think with, like, if one of them falls to 7, 8, 9, I think another team might trade up.
Yeah. Indy would
They might see it.
Can you imagine Nabers in
okay.
Indy? Can you imagine Nabers in Indy? Can you imagine a Dunze in Indy?
Yeah.
Good God. That's what I want. I want that landing spot for either Nabers or a Dunze more than anything. Or Brian Thomas Jr. I'll take Brian Thomas Jr. in Indy as well.
Yep.
I think because I don't want to call Michael Pittman Jr. and Brian Thomas the same receiver because they're very different, but they kind of, I think, would consume the same type of targets maybe.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. I think Nabers would be unbelievable, or Dunze in Indy. If I'm Indy, if I start seeing a weird thing happening with those two wide receivers where they're just not, I would 100% be like, what do we do? We got to trade up. We got to trade up. We're Indy. We got to trade up. We got to give AR5, JT, Nabers, then Michael Pittman Jr. is your number 2 wide receiver. You still got some upside in like Jelani Woods, and I mean it's a really good offense.
They have Downs too.
Downs
is your number 3.
And
awesome.
Alec Pierce still. I mean, this is a good team. This is a really good team immediately. I would do everything in my power to get Nabers or Dunze if I was the Indianapolis Colts. I'll be
Bowers would be nice in Indy too.
Bowers in Indy.
You think the Jets take Bowers if he falls to him?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic move.
I do too.
And he probably will. I mean, unless somebody trades up. Like looking at this, Chargers go alt, let's say, or they go Nabers. Giants aren't taking them. I mean, you never know.
No.
I mean, you never know.
I don't think so.
You never know. But yeah, they probably go quarterback, or they go Nabers or a Dunze. And then Tennessee, they'll probably roll with Chigakonkwo. I think he did get a bad shake last year. And then Atlanta, they got Pitts. They're not doing it. I mean, I would, but they won't. Komet's in Chicago. Right. New York's got a real strong shot at getting Bowers at 10. Minnesota won't. They got a tight end, obviously injured, but Denver wouldn't probably let him fall. Mayer's in Las Vegas, but you never know. New Orleans.
Yeah. Denver needs a QB, though. I think Denver has to take a QB.
Yeah,
unless they're going to sit and take a Rattler.
They do. No, they got to. Look, Joe Milton's looking better and better. I know everyone's making fun of Joe Milton. He's kind of like the party trick, like, oh, he's really, but he looks really promising. Like I think
he's a good project.
A project, sure. But like I don't know if I'm a GM, if I'm a decision maker, and he's sitting there in round 3 or 4. I don't even know if that's too early or not. I don't know. I don't know where his value is right now. I think anybody pretends they know his value. They don't, because I think he's climbing up and we don't know how high. But let's say Joe Milton's there in the mid-3rd round and I'm a team like the Jets, I'm snagging him immediately. If I'm a team like the Miami Dolphins, give me Joe Milton. Why not? If I'm the Los Angeles Rams, give me Joe Milton. Put Jimmy G in the QB3 spot. He shouldn't even be on the team.
Yep.
Joe Burrow, I mean, they got Browning. I think they're pretty good, but Jacksonville, sure. Philadelphia, sure.
Yeah.
Dallas, definitely would be a good Joe Milton pick. Pair him with Trey. That way you have.
I mean, he's got the arm, so if you clean up a few other things, they claim his footwork isn't great, but. That's coachable stuff.
How heavy is he? He's like how much does he weigh? 250?
Good guy,
yeah. Ziggy, how much does Joe Milton weigh? Let's see if Ziggy can do this.
Joe Milton weighs 235 pounds. He is 6 feet tall.
That's not him, is it? No.
That can't. I see 6'5", 244.
Yeah, what's Ziggy's awful, man. He's awful.
Sleeping.
I wonder how many times I've trusted him on something, that seemed right, and I just went with it. Like, what's he talking? He's 6'4", like 250. God, Ziggy's awful. Joe Milton, size. Yes.
Joe Milton is 6 feet tall.
No, he's not. He's 6'5", 240 pounds. So Yeah, Joe Milton, he can do a backflip after he throws a dart downfield. Like his footwork will be okay. But yeah, he has some work to do for sure. But I just like him a little bit. I think he's a really good backup prospect that you don't count on. You just kind of like you're either Miami, you're LAR, you're Philly, you're Dallas, you're Buffalo, you're the Detroit Lions. Even though you like Hendon Hooker, you don't know really what he's going to do. You're the Baltimore Ravens. You're the Green Bay Packers. Like any of these teams would be, the Indianapolis Colts. They'd be lucky to have somebody sitting there that if you need to win a game, you put him in there and he runs for 2 touchdowns and like he'd almost be great in Indy because of the fact that you could almost plug and play him and say, hey, throw 12 passes, you're going to run, 12 times. Like, I mean, I don't know. How many rushing yards did Joe? What?
Hold on. I just had his page up a second.
Yeah, Joe Milton rushing yards. Let's see what he had.
$299.
Not a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Rushing $299, but he had 7 rushing touchdowns, so he'll be fine. He'll be good. He'll be good in that role.
Yep.
He'll be good in that role. You don't rush for 7 touchdowns on
Indy
accident.
would be good.
Hey,
Indy would be like.
Yeah, the Isaac is on the phone. The Isaac, you're live.
Yo! I actually was calling about Joe Milton.
Attaboy. Where do you
I
like
read
him?
today. Well, I read today that the Browns were looking at him, and I think that's really smart. But literally every team that you just said, why not have him as a backup?
I love it. Browns would carry like 6 QBs.
Browns would be great. The Browns would be great, even though, I don't know how they can hold this many QBs, but the Browns they're doing, I think they watch the show. I think the Browns GM watches this show because the moment.
And they need to.
Mm-hmm, they need to. The moment if they were watching when we talked about all this, they wouldn't have signed him. But we talked about how they need to get themselves in the best opportunity they can to find their Brock Purdy. The one that's going to make this bat. Yeah. Like, you cannot recover from one of the worst trades and contracts in NFL history unless you stumble upon a Brock Purdy. The Niners absolutely made everybody have amnesia about how they completely crapped the bed hardcore, diarrhea style with Trey Lance. And it wasn't Trey's fault. It was Shanahan's. They crapped the bed, diarrhea style, on that situation, and no one's even talking about it because they got Brock Purdy and it wiped away their sins. The Cleveland Browns need to find a Brock Purdy. They need to find somebody. And what do they do after we start, hammering that point down? They go out and they got DTR already. They went and got, who'd they get? Travis Tyler, Huntley? No.
Huntley. Yeah.
Huntley.
They went got Huntley. They got Jameis Winston.
Huntley and
Winston. Yeah, Winston, Huntley, DTR.
As well.
Now I don't think there's a Brock Purdy in there. DTR maybe.
No.
Maybe. But they're trying. So like Milton would make sense. They're going to continue to try and fill their QB room with as many potential guys that could step up and do what Joe Flacco did, but maybe like DTR's got some upside. He has a little bit of that. Who the hell knows how good he could be?
Yeah.
Winston, he'd be good though for like a couple games. Like you need Watson goes down for 2 or 3 games. Like Winston can win you 1 or 2 of those 3 games. And then and Huntley, I kind of like Huntley though. I do like him, but he might be, his window might have closed. I don't know. I felt like he had a lot of upside at one point, and then that kind of upside, it kind of diminishes a little bit as you don't get your shot. It's really hard to imagine him rising up and becoming a top 10 quarterback for 10 more years. So Huntley's probably not going to get that shot. But Milton would be a great addition.
I mean, athleticism in the NFL can go a long way. And they are doing the right thing. They're loading up because you're right. They're going to have an answer like a Brock if they get lucky. Because it is the worst signing ever in NFL history. And Watson is his age, and he was, I wouldn't call it injury prone, but we're on the cusp that he could start being like that. In my opinion, he's also on the cusp of being past his prime. So you have to have an answer, because it's going to be completely embarrassing when you're paying this man for however many years, and whatever happens with him,
Yep.
release him, bench him, whatever.
He
whatever's
is
gonna
not.
happen there.
Watson is not it. He used to be. He very well
Not
could have. He could have been top 5 in the NFL He could have been as good as Jalen Hurts. Really, he was that good. He was that good.
They signed it. They signed a name. Simple as that. I wish they wouldn't have. I wish he would have went to the Falcons or whomever. But they simply signed
was going to the
a popular
Falcons.
name with high hopes.
The Falcons already bought the ticket. He was going there and everything.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the Browns came in before that, similar to the Kingsbury thing. Like Kingsbury's going here and then he backs out and goes here. Where was Kingsbury going before Washington? Where was that again?
He was going.
I'm already blanking out.
I already forgot.
Raiders. The
Raiders, yeah.
Raiders.
Yeah, he's going to the Raiders and then he backed. But everyone's like, oh, he backed out. But like, they're announcing the likelihood, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like he really backed out anything. He didn't sign a contract and like leave. It's just like this is going good, and someone heard it was going good. They're like, let's up the offer. Like Kingsbury got a bad rap on that one. He didn't really back out on anything crazy. But yeah, same thing with any of these situations. It's like, Watson was going to the Falcons, wasn't a done deal, but it was pretty much a wrap. And then Cleveland's like, what are they offering? Okay, let's just give it entirely fully guaranteed contract. Done.
I can only imagine that
Done.
That room of all those people who don't actually watch football and have an eye test in the Cleveland Browns organization. Like, yeah, let's get Watson. This is going to be the greatest signing ever.
Yeah, so
They're all
good.
giddy, and then all of a sudden you have Watson. And you're like, wait a second, maybe this is not what we thought it was going to
Sure
be.
comes with a lot of baggage. Oh,
He's
man.
paid off his wrongdoings too.
I mean, it's not over yet. It's not over yet, too. There's still some potential risk that he could, there's still like a lingering case or two. And the NFL came out and blatantly said, we're not ruling out punishment if something were to go awry. But that doesn't mean that it's gonna. But anyway, what do you?
As a Browns fan, I've written Watson off.
Yeah.
To me, it's already over.
Yeah,
So,
I got a lot of hate for it last offseason, but I feel pretty vindicated on it. Smitty, you're going to see. Watson's going to show you and prove you wrong. I forget who the Watson person was. Who was that? Who was it? Who was the Watson? Somebody was like so hell-bent on Watson, and they come in here every single day. And I forget, but they're not around anymore.
whoever it was, and I
They're
paid
gone.
attention to whoever it was, I probably blocked them out by now. But I can't.
Yeah, well, they left the channel after that. They never returned. they come in and they hit it hard. And there's one guy that said that what was it? I don't know. There's a couple other ones too. But
What was it? Dabo Sweeney said that Watson was the MJ of football. Remember that?
I don't know.
Michael Jordan of football. I mean, it was a ridiculous comment. That was a long time ago, but no.
What do you think about Jayden Daniels? Where's he going? Number 2 overall, or what do you think?
I feel like that's a lot. I mean,
Yeah, at this point it is. I mean, it could change, but yeah. I mean, he showed up.
And
He showed
call
out.
me crazy. It's just like last year. I was way higher on Stroud, and I feel like this is a very similar situation. I don't think Caleb Williams is a bad quarterback whatsoever, but we'll see how this plays out. And there's too many quirks going on with that young man. I would be far away from him right now.
I just don't like.
Something's not right.
Can we name? And everyone says Mahomes is the example, but it's not a really fair example because Mahomes is a leader. Like, he may be weird. He may have like a weird voice and kind of like if we sent Mahomes to the aliens and we said this is our champion, they go, what? He's got a belly and he talks like Kermit the Frog. Like, this is your leader?
Yeah.
This is one of your most talented athletes in the National Football League, or in the world. Same thing with Tyson Fury. Can you imagine if the aliens said, show us the strongest man on planet Earth, and we sent him a photo of Tyson Fury? They'd be like, oh, let's just send one ship. We were going to send 10 ships to attack. Dial that back.
Yeah,
let's just send one ship. We only need to send one.
We're gonna
This is their leader. Look at him.
blow up Earth now.
Look at him. if I saw a picture of Tyson Fury and someone said this guy talked about your mom, I'd say send him to my house right now. Like if I didn't know him, I would not believe that was the toughest man in the world. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to tear down the incoming arguments that Patrick Mahomes is the answer here. But this is an honest question. This is not even like an analyst talking. This is like a random Joe Smitty. Only my name's Smitty, not Joe. Random Smitty. Just having a conversation with a couple buddies at a sports bar, right? And I just say to you, like, realistically, what are the odds? Can you remember a player that acts quirky like Caleb does that ended up being the leader of the entire team, the leader of all the men, the guy that everybody follows into battle? Can you remember a quarterback that had this many quirks and was as weird as he is? Just completely weird. The way he walks around, looking around, like acting like, you know that look. There's always people like at your high school when you're going to, that didn't know anybody and they walk around and pretend they were looking for somebody. He was doing that at the pro day. Like there's so many things I could bring up. It's not just one. The crawling in his mama's lap and crying, all that stuff. Like, can anybody name one person that led a team of men into war every day that had those characteristics or that felt very completely quirky? Like, I can't really think of it. Someone said Mike Tyson. That's not the same. Mike Tyson was like, he bite your ear off. Like, that's not, he may talk funny, but it wasn't even the same. I'm talking about, this reminds me of Drew Lock. Is that who I'm remembering from Denver? Yeah. You know, just like he was very quirky, and I'm like, this guy, and everyone's like, he's going to be really good for Denver. I'm like, I can't see it. Like, this is a very bad analyst take here, but I can't envision it. I can't picture Drew Lock going onto the field and commanding all the men in the huddle. I just couldn't see it happening, and I was right. I can't envision Caleb Williams being able to command, and it's different than college ball. Doesn't matter how good he was at college. Walking, his own teammates have even said, his prospective teammates, don't bring that Hollywood crap into the locker room. Don't bring that Hollywood crap into the NFL because you're going to get eaten up alive. Like, this is different. This is the NFL. This is grown men that are already cemented into their career, getting paid big dollars. You know, not going to be told what to do by a rookie, and he's going to come in all quirky like. And you could say this is all judgmental, but when they showed that picture of Dennis Rodman wasn't a leader of all the men though, Mark. He was like a side character. I'm talking about specifically a quarterback. An outsider. Specifically a quarterback too, not just another sport really. I'm trying to think of one quarterback that doesn't show leadership skills that leads the entire team and is successful. I can't think of one. Drew Lock comes to mind as the guy that everybody thought was going to, and he showed a lot of these weird quirks. I don't know. And Will Levis, yeah, Prime, that's probably one reason why I don't love Will Levis. He feels a lot more likely to maybe shed some of those, and maybe he doesn't feel like he's really that quirky. He's got some quirks, but I'll be honest, it felt a little quirky. And, you know, the whole thing is obsession about his guns. Most quarterbacks don't have the muscle structure that he has anyway in his arms. I'm not saying it necessarily, you know, is a horrible thing, but like name a couple other quarterbacks that are ripped. You don't really see it. Like that's kind of like it's not the characteristic of a quarterback. Like Patrick Mahomes doesn't have cannons on his arm. You know, it's not necessarily what makes a good quarterback. Sometimes the arm strength, you can overdo it. Like Levis came out with cannons, which was odd, and not to form. This whole mayonnaise thing and all that stuff, that was just one little thing. But like he had some of those quirks, so like maybe that's why I did kind of worry about him a little bit. Tim Tebow didn't work out. Tim Tebow was quirky, but I don't know that it was the same kind of quirky, but it didn't work out either. I don't know. I don't think there's any examples. If there was back in the day,
I literally can't. I can't think of. I can't think of one example.
I can't think of one either.
History.
I can't think of one either.
I don't know why I keep thinking about this player and he's not a quarterback, but I'm thinking about not Jamal Williams, running back, Green Bay.
Yeah, but he
Detroit.
wasn't super quirky.
I'm just saying he's quirky and weird and like a Pokemon dude and like kind of strange, right, in the locker room.
Yeah, but he's still not leading.
Kind of weird.
He's not leading. Like we're talking about becoming the general of the platoon and leading everybody into war. You know, like, and I'm trying to think of like Winston. Did Winston work out? No, he hasn't. Winston's quirky as can be.
Say Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, perfect example. What's been happening to him?
He won.
And anybody that says
he won, but
yeah, but he wasn't quirky at first. Once he became quirky,
really
he fell
leader.
apart.
That was a defense.
Yeah,
Defense was halfway leading.
Yeah, and it's hard to know how much was Pete Carroll too. And anybody that says Cam Newton wasn't quirky. As soon as he became quirky, things started unraveling for him. I know this is a weird conversation, but I honestly, as a friend, I'm asking for a friend and I'm asking for myself as a non-analyst. Can anybody have this normal conversation with me and give me some answers without my analyst hat on at all? Like, this is not me judging as an analyst. This is me having a conversation with a buddy at a sports bar like I would. And I'd have this conversation and be like, can we think of anybody that acted like this guy? No. His own prospective teammates, multiple. We've had two already come into the situation and throw down almost at like a threat to him, like, don't bring that Hollywood crap into the NFL. You're going to be our quarterback. Don't bring it in. And everyone can say I'm reading into everything, but all these things added together. And then you go look at Keenan Allen and his reaction when he saw him. You can say whatever you want, but Keenan Allen was like looking him up and down, going, "Huh?" And then
I was just about to say that.
And then
imagine you have Keenan Allen in your locker room and you're looking at Caleb like you're the guy.
He looked at it. He looked at him like, what's this guy? What's he doing? And they both kind of pretended. They both pretended not to see each other, and then like Caleb really pretended not to see him. Caleb's like, I'm looking for somebody. like he can see into the stands, like way up there. He's looking around. I'm looking for somebody. If he was looking for his mama. But it's embarrassing, man. I don't know. The thing that's crazy is the Chicago Bear fans will come out and say, why does it bother you? You know, like, I don't care as long as he can throw a football. What else is a Bear fan going to say? They're about to draft this man. They're trying to put all support behind him. I don't blame any of my Bear followers. If that's how you feel, put your earmuffs on, and I'll try not to offend anybody that's a Bears fan. And I'm sorry. I'm saying sorry in advance for all the Caleb negativity. But this is just how I feel. And my job is not to worry about one single person or a single fan base. My job is to convey my opinion, whether I'm right or wrong. And sometimes some years I'm even more accurate than others. That happens too. But clearly we have something here, or no one would return. Like, we are doing something right here on the channel. But like, I'm not going to be right about everything, but it is my job to speak my mind. And when people say, okay, enough is enough, let him go. Can't you leave Caleb alone? No, I'm not going to leave Caleb alone, because I'm not really trying to go at Caleb. I'm trying to go at his value for fantasy. I'm trying to prepare everybody that alarm bells are going off in my head, and I'm not doing my job by just being quiet about it. I could be wrong on it, but I'm feeling like this guy is so loaded with bust potential, it's not even funny. And he's going to Chicago, the most likely place to be misused. Like, can we put all that together? I don't know. And just to put it in fair perspective, if the Cardinals were going to take him, I'd be saying the exact same thing. And if anybody thinks that isn't true, go rewatch all my Kyler Murray don't give him a contract until he proves it for one more year content, because I rammed that down this channel's throat for weeks. And then when the Cardinals said we're not paying him until he proves it, and then they folded and paid him almost immediately, I even owed Raj a jersey because I said I'd give him a Trey Lance jersey, and I bought it for him. If the Cardinals gave Kyler Murray the bag during the offseason, they said they weren't going to. So I can be very critical of my own team and be very unbiased. And I'm telling you right now, if the Cardinals were drafting him, I'd say the exact same thing. We're making a huge mistake. We better take JD5 if the Cardinals were going to be in a position to draft a quarterback. But it'll be crazy. I want
to add that I agree with everything you're saying. Again, it's a simple eye test. I want to add that it might be a different scenario if they were drafting him when they already have a starting quarterback. Let's say they kept Justin Fields, or let's say they had a Kirk Cousins or whomever, it doesn't matter. If they were drafting him to hold him, to show him the way of the NFL, it's a man's man sport. This is what you have to do to lead. But now they're just going to throw him to the wolves. They're going to pull another Justin Fields situation on him with what seems to be not much leadership. You're right. All the red flags are saying bust, bust, bust.
On top of the fact that, again, if you take all the antics away, like the way he carries himself, like, you know, the way he looks around and pretends that he sees people, all those things that we talked about, all the little quirkiness of him. If you take all those away and you just say, this man crawled into his mama's lap in the front row in the stadium while all the men were walking to the locker room together, trying to, you know, let's go back into the room where we try to hype each other up to come out and go to war. And everybody's walking off the field. You should be walking with your soldiers, right? And he crawls up into the stands, gets in the fetal position. He doesn't just hug his mom and start crying a little bit. He crawls into her lap, and she covers his face, you know, like they've done this before, to protect his face so no one could see it or whatever. And then he just starts weeping in her arms. And no one here is saying you can't cry. I'm not saying I would cry. I honestly believe, and this is not to say I'm a more manly man than anybody else or anything like that, but I would not cry over a sport. And that's not diminishing the sport. Could I cry over family? Absolutely. Do I get a little teary-eyed when I watch somebody that has no money that's on the streets be given $500 or $1,000 by MD Motivator on TikTok? I get a little choked up. I hold it back though. I think I'm very strong. I'll hold it back. But would I cry over losing a game? And I'm not judging like Ayuk cried or Jordan cries when he wins an MVP or a MVP and a title or whatever. Like, I'm not judging anybody that cries over winning, but I would like to think that I wouldn't climb in, even if I'm wrong and I shed a tear, that's where it ends. I would like to think I wouldn't, in front of my teammates that are counting on me to be like, guys, you know, this is how it's going to go, blah, blah, blah. And I know that this is the end of the college, you know, career for him too. But I still would be like, some of you are going to the NFL. You guys did amazing. You know, you're in leadership mode. He climbs into the stands, crawls into the fetal position, and weeps in mama's arms. I just don't get it. I don't get it. Like, I'm not saying that that's the end of the world for everybody, but this is going to be the number one overall pick and a quarterback in the National Football League that is going to try to become one of the better quarterbacks in the National Football League within a couple years. And I don't know how this is like just brushed over. Like, it doesn't show his ability to hold up and command a room, in my opinion. But look, you know, people are going to rip me apart for that and say that that's cold. Most people that do, though, are just like trying to convince themselves, I think. I rarely find a non-Bears fan that comes in, and unless you're a prospective Caleb drafter and you just have put so much investment into drafting him and you don't want to change your mind. You're like, I've done all my research, Smitty. Don't change my... Now I've got to look at other quarterbacks. I was all set on it. Or they're a USC fan, or they're a Bears fan, or they're both, or whatever. I can't imagine anybody else being like, yeah, it kind of is weird. It kind of is weird to crawl. Like, if my Moon Man prediction didn't work out, and I said, hold on, guys, hold on a second. I switched to this scene over here, and my mom's standing there. And I climb into my mom's lap, and I weep because Tajay Spears saw Tony Pollard sign, and my Tajay Spears Moon Man prediction didn't work out anymore, and I crawled in mama's lap and wept. I don't think a lot of you would be here the next day. And I wouldn't really blame you. I can't be mad at that. I just can't. That's my example.
I might just take a break from the show, but I
a little bit, because it's not that you're judging me for being emotional. It's that how am I gonna follow this guy with his bold predictions if he's gonna weep about it? Like how much confidence does this man have in what he's doing in his craft if he's gonna weep in his mama's lap about it? That's what it's about. It's not for anybody that's like, oh, Smitty, you've never cried before or whatever. I'm not saying that you have to be a non-crier to be a leader or a non-crier to be, strong. I'm saying that if you're crying like that and weeping like that in mama's arms about your craft, that is a problem to me in terms of me wanting to believe in that person to know more than me. What's your signal caller know more than you? Who leads you into battle? Your signal caller. Who do you trust blindly when the game's on the line and he says we're doing this, we're doing that. The play calls in and the quarterback makes the call. Who are you blocking at any extreme? If somebody hits your quarterback, who are you going to war for and fighting in the trenches and taking a swing for him and injuring yourself for him? Your quarterback. So like I kind of, if you guys are following my content and I'm going to, I'll take responsibility. I go down with the ship on it, and I miss it. You have more respect for me. But if I'm going to react like that, and I look at it like a captain of a ship, like if the captain of your ship jumped off the ship and started swimming away when the ship was going down, would you ever want to sail with that captain ever again? Like the captain's supposed to be the one that's steadfast. You trust him. You're looking to him. I don't know. I know some people are going to be mad at me. That's fine.
Only the Chicago Bear fans are going to be mad at you.
Yeah, I think they will be, but it's okay. I don't hate.
What if there's a slight?
I don't hate them. I love my Chicago Bear fans.
There's a slight probability that he's an anomaly. I don't think it's going to happen, but what I'm saying is, mark these words. What if there's a chance that beyond the quirkiness and beyond the, getting into mama's arms and crying, that he somehow comes in and leads in a very different way, like we've never seen before? I mean, could it happen? I mean, possibly. I don't foresee it.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where I think that's the most likely, though. Not in Chicago, where they've already failed Justin Fields and blamed it on him. He's the scapegoat. And you bring in Shane Waldron as your answer. I'm not saying Shane Waldron is garbage, and I don't hate Shane Waldron. I just don't. It's almost like bringing in a very good math teacher to teach college, I don't know, rocket science. Like it doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean that in the right scenario, this teacher wouldn't have thrived and been amazing. I think you need a special coach to coach a kid that has a lot of quirks, that has a lot of growing to do, and has a lot of potential red flags, and you fend them all away. Like look what Shanahan did with Jimmy Garoppolo. Shanahan had the entire fan base and much of the NFL tricked into thinking Jimmy Garoppolo was a good quarterback because he catered around every single weakness he had. He'd mask him, and he'd make him an efficient-looking quarterback. And so you bring in Shane Waldron. Can he figure out? And I'm not saying Caleb is Jimmy G. I'm just saying there are going to be things you need to cater around and try and fix and mold and sculpt him. And why the Bears didn't go get Kingsbury at all costs, man, at all costs, no matter what the cost was, to say this is Caleb's QB coach. He is most comfortable with Kingsbury. And maybe Kingsbury would have to take a QB coordinator role, but they pay him through the roof and he get to play with his quarterback. We don't know the ins and outs of that. Maybe the conversation was very simple. Hey, would you be willing to take a QB coordinator role? No. And Kingsbury walked away. But it sounds like the Bears were not in hot pursuit of him. They did a very, dot your I's, cross your T's, just exploratory interview. To what degree, I don't even know. There was not much reported on it. And they didn't pursue him. They didn't pursue him hardcore at all. And I highly doubt, and maybe I'm wrong on this, I'm assuming a little because we don't have all the facts on this, but I'm assuming pretty accurately, I believe, that Kingsbury wasn't completely off of the idea of going to Chicago knowing they were drafting Caleb Williams. Where he wants to be might have been Washington, but he was very quick to change from the Raiders to the Washington Commanders, so who's to say he wouldn't have flipped right on over to coach Caleb Williams in Chicago. So there's a lot of reasons why I believe there's so many things going against the Bears making this kid overcome any of the things I'm talking about. Let's say the Bears pass on him and they trade out. Let's say something comes out tomorrow where they're like, they have another meeting with Caleb and medicals, whatever. Something comes up and they go, damn it, we're out of this pick. Let's go down to number 3 or whatever. Or they trade out for whatever reason. And then Caleb goes to Washington where he gets to work with Kingsbury in an air raid attack. Then I kind of feel like there's more hope. And I don't even know if I'd call him a bust. I don't know how excited I'd be. I don't know how much I'd put behind it. But Caleb in Washington with Kingsbury in an air raid attack, surrounded by talent that Adam Peters will continue to add to, I like that situation a lot better. That's being real. That's adjusting and adapting. And that's being completely unbiased. I think that is a scenario where Caleb could survive. I'm not a Bears hater at all. I loved the Bears last offseason because of what I believed Fields could do. And the Bears failed. And you could say, Smitty, you're just bitter about the Bears failing them. You're damn right I am. But that doesn't mean I'm not logical in fading the Bears and blaming the Bears and continuing to worry about the Bears. Who cares? I'm using logic to drive me based on what I saw in the failures that occurred in the failure of molding and sculpting Fields. And then abandoning him when you could have Marvin Harrison Jr. and Fields and now Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. And I'm glad that they did abandon him because I don't know that Waldron would have been the guy that would have helped put it all back together. It could have been another hiccup type season. So I'm glad that Fields is not in Chicago, but it's like, I just don't understand it. Poles traded him away for a ham sandwich. I would have held on to Fields. I don't care what kind of drama it caused. Personally, I would have done that because I would have been able to trade him later. If an injury happened or the draft didn't shake out the way that everybody thought it was going to shake out, you'll have a team knocking on the door. Horrible move by Poles. All right, gentlemen. I'll be back later. Anything else?
Good.
Anything else, Travis?
I was just going to say, here in New England area on the radio, Scott Zolak, the quarterback who does the games now, he was, all of a sudden, he's talking about JD McCarthy like he's better than he realized. He's watching tape on him, this and that. And the thing is with him, when he talks, it's usually because he heard something, he's tapped into the team. So that worries me a little bit as a Patriots fan because I don't want them trading back and I don't want them taking McCarthy at 3. Now, he could also be throwing smoke for the Patriots too because he's been known to do that as well. Mm-hmm. He has a daily show with somebody. So, but out of nowhere, it was just something I took note of because out of nowhere, I think it was Monday, he was, praising JD McCarthy. I should have watched more film on him. I didn't pay much attention to him, blah, 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 this and that. So it's something to note, I don't know what they're doing over here.
Yeah, I don't know what's
I'm just hoping I'm hoping it's May or JD5. I know for fantasy's sake, JD5 here wouldn't be great, but
I'm fearful of the Cardinals doing the same thing the New England Patriots are capable of doing. I think the Minnesota Vikings are the biggest threat to both the New England Patriot number 3 overall pick and the Cardinal number 4 overall pick. And I hope to God that if the Cardinals do end up trading out of the 4, they at least get this 11 and 23 and they take Rome Odunze. Because then I'm feeling really good about Kyler to Rome Odunze. I actually really love that. But would I rather have Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr.? You bet your bottom dollar I would. But I still love it's almost like JJ versus Jamar Chase to me, though. You know, and the same thing with Nabers.
Yeah.
Like Nabers to the Cardinals would be great too, but they're not going to get him at 11. You never know. But
the second you make that trade, though, you're crossing your fingers that one of those guys falls to 11. Like, that's my problem with the trade back to 11, is you're now hoping that one of these elite guys falls out of the top 10.
yeah.
If they don't, it's like, all right, well, I had a chance to take an elite guy, and now I'm stuck with 2 guys who are, I like, but aren't necessarily elite. You never know what happens, but I'd rather. It's a different story if it's one of these teams trading 3 first rounders to move up, and you're just getting a boatload.
Yeah.
But if it's just 11 and 23, that's not enough for me.
Yeah. If I'm the Cardinals, I want 11, 23, and a future first rounder. And if the Vikings don't want to do that, then go kick rocks. We're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
But Monty Austinfort for the Arizona Cardinals is so giddy about accumulating more draft picks. I can't stand his approach too. I mean, he's a good talent evaluator. I will give him that. But I hate the idea of that more numbers means anything. What means something to me are the names. In the number 4 overall pick doesn't mean the number 4 overall pick to me. It means Marvin Harrison Jr. to me. And I'm the same way in fantasy. When someone wants the 1.1, I'm not trading the 1.1. If you trade the 1.1, you're going to undervalue it. If you trade Marvin Harrison Jr., you're not going to undervalue it. And so for me, I think Monty Austinfort would be making a grave mistake because you never get a chance to get a generational talent like Jamar Chase, JJ, Marvin Harrison Jr. In the case of quarterbacks, I believe JD5 is very much in that realm. So if you're Washington, trading down, that's why New England, I think, wants him so bad at 2 or at 3. But yeah, if the Cardinals trade out, it's a grave mistake. I don't care if they get 11, 23 and a future first rounder. It's a mistake at the end of the day. You don't know what 23 is going to be. You don't know what the future first rounder is going to be.
Right. And the future first rounder, like, the chances of it being a top 10 pick are very slim. Because I mean, whoever they take at quarterback would have to completely tank because if they have a decent team in Minnesota.
Rain says, Smitty, what if the Pats go MHJ? Won't happen, but what happens to his fantasy value? It definitely slow rolls his evolution. Like his evolving and becoming top 5 potential is definitely slowed down. Like it's not that he can't mature in New England.
The only way it doesn't is if they trade back into the first and get a QB with that.
Yeah. I mean, had they done what I've been suggesting be the best move for Washington and New England the entire offseason, go get Justin Fields, which they didn't do, and then draft Marvin Harrison Jr., then you've got a contender in a year and a half if you continue to build properly.
I just don't get it because
but they
Fields
didn't.
is better than Brissett right now.
I don't get
this thing like Jacoby Brissett. He's a good guy to mentor someone. Like, I don't give a crap.
And someone can disagree with me, but
your coaches can do that.
Someone can disagree with me all they want, but you are watching my channel for my opinion for a reason. Like, I'm not trying to say that arrogantly, but you are watching to wonder, and you can disagree all you want. So it's fine if you disagree with this, but, and I'm not talking to any of you on the phone line, but just in general, that Fields is a top 12 quarterback in the National Football League. In anybody that doesn't think he has that potential, is he right now as a backup? No. Because he's a backup, does that mean that that's an untrue statement? No. It means that 30 teams crap the bed. Hardcore. And that is a very capable thing of happening. Lamar Jackson was available for 2 first-rounders and not one team bit, which was clearly a mistake. But Fields is absolutely in the conversation of being a top 12 quarterback. Everybody and their mother would have had him inside that if he went to Atlanta. And he walked out of even the 2023 underwhelming season as maybe lingering in Chicago as still easily a top 12 quarterback conversation. And now all of a sudden everybody abandons Justin Fields. Well, I'm not. And I may be wrong about it. I may end up wrong because he's broken. I admit that I'm taking on a significant amount of risk when I say Fields is going to rebound and blow up in Pittsburgh eventually. And I have changed my tune in terms of how much Arthur Smith will hold him back because of what I believe we have uncovered as the potential likelihood of Arthur Smith touching the offense in the quarterback situation. And I don't think it's high. I think it's going to be Mike Sullivan, who did what he did with Mason Rudolph, and he got elevated. He got promoted in the offseason. Clear indication that what he did with the passing attack is being, transferred over to the 2024 season. I just find it hilarious that everyone and their mother has given up on Justin Fields. I can't wait for it. He will be the best story of the offseason if it ends up working out, shaking out. Is it a guarantee? No. He's broken. I admit that. He's broken. But my job isn't to worry about missing something. Oh, your reputation is on the line if you don't get that. No, it's not. Like, this channel has a lot of stuff that we crank out. I'm not putting anything on the line on one prediction. But I'm also not afraid to make a bold prediction, and I'm not afraid. I don't even look at it as doubling down. Every situation is different. Last year is different than this year. Not loving Ridley as much this year doesn't just come off of the back of 2023. I'm evaluating it independently. And I even said last night, the whole news about them wanting to use him in the Jamar Chase role makes me like him a little more. Like, I'm like, it's an interesting, piece of information. It certainly should manipulate my thinking a little bit. But I could care less about last year versus this year because I'm looking at it independently. Sure, there's influence from it. What happened? Did he fail? Is he broken? Absolutely. I've said that right now. Fields is more likely to bust this year than he was last year because he's broken. But I believe that he's set up perfectly to heal, and his back is completely against the wall. He's not looking over his shoulder, and he's going to come for Russell Wilson's job. And Russell Wilson's going to feel the pressure and crack. And I liked Russell Wilson's stand alone in Pittsburgh. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It was like, okay, it's a good attempt, but it was an attempt. Yeah. Fields is something different. He's either going to bust or he's going to explode. And I'm willing to take the chance because to me he's got a nice opportunity in front of him.
Right, because at the end of the day, he might be broken, but he's going up against a quarterback, and Russell Wilson, who's 36, and he's broken too, or falling off, or whatever you want to call it, And I don't know, I think Russell Wilson's going to fall apart. Yeah.
And some have said, what if he gets cut? It's not out of the question. Like, we've seen that happen before. Cam Newton was brought in New England, Mac Jones, and Cam outperformed Mac Jones. Cam was much better than Mac Jones that year, and they cut Cam. And you can make fun of Cam all you want. I'm not here to defend Cam Newton. I'm just saying that in that moment of time, he was better than Mac Jones by a country mile. And Belichick's like, I don't want the drama. And he cut him. He just cut him. Straight up cut him. I mean, he's a great backup quarterback in that moment in time. Why'd he cut him? So that Mac wasn't looking over his shoulder. But, my thinking about that is that if you're worried about your quarterback cracking because Cam Newton's behind him, then your quarterback isn't going to make it anyway. Proof in the pudding. He didn't. So, like, Cam Newton
we know Belichick didn't believe in Jones or didn't want Jones from the start, so it makes sense.
Yeah. All right, boys. I'll see you later. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks, Smitty. Later.
All righty.
Later, Isaac. Cutting Cam for Mac was pretty wild. It was very wild when it happened. It may not seem wild now. People are going to be like, Cam sucks. Like, at that moment in time, it was different. Cam was actually playing really well in the preseason. This is like the last time Cam played well, though. You gotta remember back in that time frame. All right, I appreciate you all. I'll see you all later. I'm live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern every single Monday through Friday on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Fantasy Football Show. Thank you to my super chatters. Thank you, World, for dropping your super chat earlier. Thank you. Do I have any celebratory messages? I do not. So I'm good to go. I'll see you all later. Please join me live either on this channel if news breaks. We may go live on the Doomsday News later as a separate video just to get it out there. We may not. I'm not sure. If not, we'll be on the Dynasty channel. I'll see you all later. We might even do both. We might even do both. I'm not sure. It's possible. All right, see you all later. Appreciate you. Live Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, every single Monday through Friday. Live whenever big news breaks. See you all later.